Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, if you've watched this channel, you guys know that 2018 is going to be the year of the Panther Tank. And there is a ton of new model kits coming out from various different manufacturers, all on the Panther, the World War II Panther. And what I thought I'd do is I kind of break down the multiple kits that are coming out, because there's actually been some new ones that have just been announced. And I actually I'm going to build every single one of the Panthers this year, and probably at the end of the year when the final ones roll out, what we'll do is we'll compare all of them together and tell you which one I think is the best overall. Now that's a long time down the road, but to start off with, Meng has their brand new 35th scale Panther A late. That we'll talk more about that in a few minutes there. Takom has three Panthers, a Panther A mid, early, and late A, but those all have full interiors. Takom's also announced that they're doing a Burger Panther, an A, completely done over. Hobby Boss has just announced today too, or actually about a week ago I should say, that they are doing a Panther A early. Ryfield Models is doing a Panther G with full interior. And Trumpeter is supposed to be doing a Panther G 16 scale, much larger of course, with a full interior as well. And let's see if I forgot anyone. I mean, Tamiya's is fairly new, their Panther D, but it's just funny how everyone is doing all Panther A's all at once. But hey, it's great. We'll get a wide variety of different kits. Oh, almost forgot too. Academy Models is also doing a Panther as well. So we're going to just have a ton of different Panthers throughout the year. Probably most of them will be out even just before June. So we should have the majority of them, other than the Trumpeter kit. I'm not positive when the date on that one is. So we've got our Panther, our real World War II Panther track here to get us started on this one. So the first kit we're going to start off with is Meng's 35th scale Panther A late. It's a all brand new tool. It's a very nice kit. If you guys watched the review that I just did on, taking it apart and showing the different parts on it, it's very nicely done. I've been working on it for a few days now and everything's going together well. There are multiple types of zimmerit that you can add. They're actually a decal type zimmerit that you add on so you can change the variety, the pattern, things like that. So it's a great kit and I'm excited to show it to you. So let's get started on it. Okay, we've begun doing the lower part of the hull, and I'm just putting together right now. There's some poly caps that go in each one of the drive sprocket as well as each one of the road wheels. So what will happen is once we get all these glued together here, this will be able to just be pushed on into place and it'll still be spin, so that way we can get the tracks on real easily. Also too, all of the, like I was telling you, the road wheels, all the different ones all have poly caps inside of those. I've already glued these all together and started doing some sanding on it. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and start assembling the lower hull, and there's quite a few pieces, more so than what a normal kit would have, but I think it's going to fit together pretty well there. They've made it so there's all these little different things that it's really only one way that you can put it together, and you can see it fits pretty tight just putting it like that. And then we've got the other side over here that will just pop right in here. Now of course we're going to glue all this in a few minutes too, but as you can see it's a nice firm, tight fit on it. Now we'll also go ahead and glue these pieces inside here, and these have a little notch cut in each one of them. So when we put the suspension arm in, the suspension arm will only go in a certain way, and that'll lock it into place there. But that's going to get glued behind each one of the sides of the hull here. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and glue all of these pieces together. I'll finish up the drive sprocket as well as the return roller, or the idler wheel. I couldn't get that one out. And we're going to finish up the idler wheel here, which is very funny. The idler wheel is actually made up of like 6 parts, which I've never seen one with that many parts, but it's looking pretty good. So lots and lots of detail, and it's even hollowed out in there. So I'm going to get all that put together, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, we have the majority of the main parts of the lower hull now attached on here. I've just got done putting the little springs into place here, as well as the transmission covers on here. And hopefully you can see there's some nice detail on the transmission covers. They look really good. Now, the next step will be that we will put into place all of the different suspension arms. What I'll tell you really quick on those is there are 3 specific different styles of suspension arm that needs to be put into place here. So what we're going to do is, this is the main type one. There's 10 of these particular arms, 5 on each side. So we're going to go ahead and get those glued into place first. That way we can keep it straight which ones goes where. Now, each one of the suspension arms has a little groove in it, and it's going to correspond to the groove on the other side here. So it's just a matter of getting it to line up, and it just pops into place, and you get the proper angle, so you don't have to worry about anything like that going out of place. So this way all the road wheels are going to line up. And with the road wheels having a poly cap inside, that'll just slide right onto there, push it all the way in. But we'll do that afterward. So I'm going to go ahead and glue all of those suspension arms in a minute here. But one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is, now that we have all these pieces together on the hull, I think it's the best way to describe it is that it feels very, very substantial. There's lots of bracing and stuff inside here, so you get a nice surface. Oops. The thing sits flat on the ground right here, meaning there's no warpage or anything to it. It's a real nice piece the way they've got it designed in there. And once you guys actually start to build the kit, you'll see what I'm talking about. Once you get all those pieces glued in there, it's stiff and it just holds together really well. And I appreciate something like that in a model kit. So let's go ahead and put the suspension arms all into. Okay, a couple of quick thoughts to kind of explain something to you. The instructions are a tiny bit unclear. It says to just basically copy and do this exact same thing on the other side. But keep in mind, a Panther, the way it was designed, because it has torsion bars inside the real vehicle, this side of the swing arms go forward, and this side of the swing arms go backwards in the way they face. So just keep in mind, just do the exact same pattern. It could be a little bit clearer in the instruction, but it's minor. Now, this is one other little thing that I ran into that I definitely want to point out to you guys. After trying to test fit some of the road wheels on here, I've noticed that a few of these don't want to fit on very well. The suspension arms are very, very thin, so you don't want to break them at all. But you might have to go over and just lightly sand the edge, just the tip of this little piece right here, to get this to slide all the way on. And that's because the inside hub is either exactly perfect size or just, you know, undersized, that it doesn't want to fit this in here. So just be careful. I almost snapped one of these off trying to push it on, and then I took it apart and realized, oh, this is not fitting in there properly. So just a touch of sanding and they all pop right on into place. Oh, and speaking of sanding, this is the type of plastic. I don't know if you guys had remembered when I built the Academy kit that was done in their green olive drab plastic, that it shows scratches really well. Even after you polish it all out, some of the scratches still appear to be there, but it is completely smooth. So you might notice that there's some areas that look like, oh, that looks really rough, but rest assured it's been smooth sanded, and once you paint over it, that'll all disappear. But it's just noticeable as you're putting it together. So I've gone ahead and put all the road wheels on, and we have a nice straight surface, so all the road wheels hit the ground. So that is always a good thing when you're building a tank. So now we can go on and start working on the tracks. Okay, what I decided to do for this kit is I'm going to use a set of Fruel model metal tracks for the build we're doing. I like using metal tracks for Panthers and Tigers for a couple reasons. A, they're huge tracks in real life. And I think they have a nice weighted appeal to it that it's just hard to do sometimes with plastic. Even if they do have all the little guides and things, I like putting the metal tracks on there. Now, I have a little trick that I like to do when I'm building the metal tracks, especially Panthers and Tigers. I like to use regular standard staples. Any standard size staple will work on it. And very, very simple. Just take your staples and your needle nose pliers and straighten out one side, which you can see I've already done right here. You're going to break off an individual staple, and just like this little one right here. You're going to take your two pieces of track, line them up as you would, and just start to work them in. Most of the time they'll go in pretty much by themselves. You might have to work it with a little pair of, like the needle nose again, and just when you get to the end, straighten out that last little part, push it all the way in, you clip that piece off, and you're ready to go. Now, the other part I like a lot about using staples are square pieces of metal. They're not round like wire would be. So when you put the square piece in the round hole, they don't fall out. Sometimes the wire you have to super glue into place, and then you worry about getting super glue on the track and making it seize up. This is very, very quick and easy to do. They don't fall out at all, and you just have to just trim them up. And then you put this portion of the track on the inside. Now I'll push those in and file them all down, get them really flush just before we put them on the vehicle, but way, way easier I think than using the wire, and they come out really well too. And somebody asked me in the comment section on the review video of whether or not they'll fit on there, how the other aftermarket tracks fit, and they do. I was lining these up on here. They're a little, gotta get it wrapped around the drive sprocket here. Yep, there it goes. And yeah, you'll be able to fit them right on there. They fit right on all the road wheels. Everything looks good on it. In fact, because of the side skirts, you probably wouldn't even have to complete the entire set. You could just make it up to here and come all around here with the side skirt would cover it up. And actually, if you do something like that, 2 sets of Friul model tracks, doing it this way could actually cover up 3 vehicles. But that's totally up to you, deciding on how you want to make them look. And there we have 1 set of the tracks now in place, and we used 87 tracks just like the instructions called out for, so the Friul model track must be the exact size, so everything worked out. And just to let you know on the back here, because we haven't painted these yet, the last one that you put in, leave the L-shaped piece still on there, and this makes it easy to take in and out. So you just pop that piece out, tracks come off, you can paint them, weather them, do whatever you want, pop that pin back in, it's ready to go again. And now I've just got a few other things I'm going to do is start putting the exhaust and a few other pieces on the back. We've just put the stowage bins on the back there, so we'll finish those up and we'll start on the upper part of the hull. Now with the lower hull assembled, we can now start assembling the upper part. And as I pointed out in the review I did on this video, they have left the sides and part of the front off in here, and I think that is so that they can do a interior kit later on. And it's going to be pretty simple and straightforward. There's pegs inside here that'll fit inside the corresponding side, and this should just snap together just like this. We'll put some glue on it obviously in a minute here. And there it goes. Now hopefully we should get a tight enough fit, and especially using liquid cement, that we won't have any puttying to do. What I'm going to do is, because it does seem to fit fairly tight here, just pushing it into place, I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on that, get it all clamped up, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like and tell you if it needs any putty at this point. We've got the body all clamped up there, and I think it's done a pretty good job. The only place we might have to put a touch of putty is right around in here, and that's just where the 2 weld seams meet. It's closed up most of the gap right there, but there's still a little bit of a line there that we'll putty that in with a little bit of the Vallejo putty as soon as this all dries up. Okay, we've gone ahead and attached the radiators from underneath here, and now we have this piece that makes up some of the fender as well as the bottom of the sponson, and that just has a couple of pins that'll pop that into place. That's ready to go, and then after that is done, we can go ahead and attach the last little bit of armor, which, yeah, actually was that piece right there. This little piece will get glued right into place, lock this whole thing together, and then we can start working on the back deck. And now it's about time we're going to start working on the photo etch parts for the kit. And just to let you know, there's 2 sheets of clear plastic that sandwich this together, and that's to keep it all together. And something you guys might know, you might not know, just peel one side of the plastic off only and leave the other side on. And that way, when you cut the pieces on the sprue here with your knife, the part wants to stick to the plastic right there, and it won't pop up and it won't bend on you. So you can cut, like I'm doing on this one right here, all 3 pieces of the piece out. Take your blade underneath there, and you should be able to pop it right off. Just like that. And then we can go ahead, keep that nice and flat. We can go sand the edges off right here and put the pieces into place. Okay, we're starting the process of putting the decals on. Now, I've just wet these down, and you can see Meng has given it to the point where each individual little section in here all corresponds to a corresponding decal. So what you can do is, now I've put a little bit of, to me is Mark Fit Strong, down underneath here,
And that's mainly going to be to help us kind of move the decal around before it completely sets up. And you get it locked into place. We'll work on that a little bit more. Now, as you go around the entire decal, so this will be a decal, that'll be a decal, this will be one in here, and this one will be up here, as well as this one that'll fit right here. The decals themselves fit good. They stick pretty decent, but not great. And what I mean by that is they'll stay on there for the most part. You might get a tiny bit of lifting after it dries, but what you can do is take some of the very extra thin cement and put it underneath there, right on the edge, and it kind of wicks right across the entire thing and really makes it adhere well at that point. But you just want to make sure that it's completely in the right spot, won't move on you after it's completely dry. Now, I have been putting another coat of Mark Fit Strong over the top. Hopefully it's softening the decal enough to make it kind of fit into place a little bit. But all in all, I'm really liking the way they're turning out. We've got this side done up, and we're working on this side. It's not taking too much time either. They really kind of go right into place. They soften up really fast and come right off the sheet. So we'll put some, kind of just show you this one other one too. Put a little bit of Mark Fit, and I know it's going to bead up, and that's because we've put paint on it before. We primed this with Tamiya's primer, and then you can see this just is going to pop right into place there. And that gives you an idea. Now we will blot it with some Q-tips and stuff like that to get all the water out. So I'm going to finish this up now, and then we will show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, we've got all of the main components to the turret cut out and ready to go. I have to do a little bit more cleanup sanding and such on it, but what I thought I would do is, before we do that, is just kind of go over. You can see that to give you a frame, and you'll be able to pop all of these pieces right into place here. And I may have not pointed out to at the beginning of the video, there is a metal barrel that is included with this kit as well. And then you have a slide molded muzzle brake, which, like I said, we're still in the process of cleaning up right now. So I've got a little bit more of sanding and stuff to do on this kit. We'll get all these pieces together. Once I get all of these pieces, because it's all going to be very straightforward gluing that together, we have all of the zimmerit pieces for the turret as well too, and they're going to go on just like the rest of the zimmerit did. So pretty quick and easy. So I'm going to assemble all these pieces right now, get it all built up, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, here is our completed, or should I say mostly completed model. I spent quite a bit of time going ahead and putting the zimmerit all over the turret. And let me tell you, it was quite a bit of difficulty, mainly because parts fit perfectly on there. It was once the water dried on it and the decal would start to peel up on all edges. Now, it clearly states in the instructions that you do need to put super glue on it. So after we let it dry, I did have to go over quite a bit and put super glue on it. And it's not too bad. We try to take the sanding stick here afterward and just rub all of the edges down. And what that does is it kind of chips in some areas the zimmerit, and makes it look more realistic to what the real stuff is. You know, there'll be chips and parts out of place on it. Now, after I did all of that, I went over and sprayed the entire model one more time with Tamiya's red oxide primer. It's a lacquer primer that will seal in all of this and hopefully make it stick a little bit better. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the black and white shadow and highlight coat and then spray the entire thing dark yellow. I won't really show that right now just because you guys have seen me do it a million times in the videos. But what we'll do too is we'll check to see if we need to super glue down any more of the zimmerit pieces after we get all of that done. So I'll come back in a few minutes and show you what it looks like. Okay, as you can see, I've got the dark yellow paint on there, and there were a few other little areas that I did have to glue down a touch more. You'll also notice too that we've gone ahead and put the tracks on there, and you'll also notice that they've been misted with a light coat of dark yellow. And the reason this is after reading the instructions on this particular tank, it turns out that the Germans actually camouflaged
the tracks in place. So they painted the whole thing dark yellow and then did the brown and green camo over it. The reason I only went lightly over on that, I'm picturing that if they did do a secondary camouflage job, it was not the greatest camouflage in the world, and we'll chip off a little bit of it as well once we put the green and the brown on. And I started doing a little bit more studying on the internet of actual Panthers in Normandy, and man, the zimmerit was terrible looking on it. So actually this doesn't look that bad in relationship to the way the real zimmerit looks. So even though there's some flaws here and there, the real stuff was pretty chipped up and pretty bad on it. So, and the few areas that we had problems with up on top, the tracks cover completely. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the green and brown camouflage, and we'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Okay, we've finished up the camouflage over the entire vehicle. As you can see, we'll kind of spin it real quickly here. Give you a little 360 of it. Now we've also sprayed the entire model with Tester's 1260 dull coat, and that is going to completely seal in our paint job. Now we haven't obviously painted, or finished up painting I should say, the bottom, all the road wheels, and I thought about carrying the camouflage down over it, and I still might, although the instructions called out for this particular model not to. It was all just regular dark yellow wheels, so may or may not. I'll see as we go forward if we're going to paint that or not. I've also completed up both sets of the Fruel model tracks, so those are ready to get put into place here. I will completely show you how we paint and weather those things. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and start applying all the weathering powders and pigments and washes, things like that. Okay, we're going to start working on our Fruel model metal tracks right now. First thing I put down was a coat of Rust-Oleum, just flat black paint. I use this right here because it bonds really good to metal or wood or anything on it. And that's just going to be our base coat. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over it with Tamiya's XF69 Knitted Black to give it our, a more flat coat than what actually comes out of the can. And then we're going to follow that up by our red-brown mixture, which I'll show you right down in the corner over to here. That we're just going to mist on to kind of give it a tarnish to the tracks. Okay, now that the paint is all dried on the tracks, we're going to go ahead and we're going to primarily use light sienna from Vallejo product, and we're going to put a nice liberal coat down over all of the tracks. And then we're going to mix a little bit of the dark sienna in certain areas and kind of blend it all together, making some mixtures and going back and forth. And after we get a little portion of it all set up, we're going to take a little bit of mineral spirits and soak this down. And what that's going to do, it's going to make it adhere a little bit better, and it'll dry light and nice and flat again once it's all done. In fact, what I'll do is I'll slide this one out of the way, and here's a track that we've been working on for a little while now to get the nice effect on it. And then finally, after all of that dries, we can go over it with a little bit of track wash from Meng. Open it up here, and this is kind of a little color that we'll put a little bit on some of the edges.
And not a lot of it. We don't want to soak the entire thing down, but just create a little bit of wet grime and stuff that's in between some of the tracks. And the final thing is, if you're going to be doing a scene that, you know, has like on cobblestone, you can take some light sandpaper and just lightly drag it across the tips here, and that'll highlight all of the metal, because it is metal tracks to begin with underneath here, and it'll make just the cleats pop out and stick out a little bit more. Okay, now we've got the tracks in place, as you can see. We've also touched up the road wheels, and we're about to put some weathering effects on all those. Now I'm in the process right now of just putting a thin little coat of enamel thinner over all of these areas. And after we do that, we're going to take our MIG streaking grime, and we're just going to add a little bit to some of the top surfaces here and in some of these other areas. And because it's very wet, we're going to take the same brush again and kind of just blot it into here. And that's going to make all of the zimmerit pop out a little bit more, so it's not so flat looking. And you'll also notice too, I've taken some red oxide primer, and on the tearaway part of the side skirt that's been ripped up, we put it underneath where the zimmerit would have come off because it's been flexed. We also left the very front of the vehicle. This side skirt doesn't have zimmerit at all. I kind of wanted to make it a conglomeration of like multiple different pieces, and I've seen pictures of the real things that have zimmerit on some areas, not on others, just depending on where they found it or took it off another vehicle. So we're going to go over the whole entire vehicle using some different colors of the streaking grime. And then after that, we'll go over it just with a little bit of Tamiya's black and brown panel wash and just highlight some of the little cracks and things like that on it. And we'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. Well, here we are. Here is our completed model, and I have to say I'm very, very impressed with the way everything looks after everything was said and done. Little worried about some of the decals in the beginning, but I kind of like the way they look torn up and kind of frayed, like the real thing. I'll first kind of give you a little 360 of the entire model. And as you can see, we put all of the tools into place. I even put a anti-ditching beam in the back there that actually came with the kit. It's actually multiple pieces that we just painted up with dark yellow and then put some various colors of wash on it. And as you can see on the bottom down in here, we put all kinds of washes and pigments into the wheels to give them kind of like a little bit of a caked on dirty look to it. And also give you a little bit of an overhead shot too of the vehicle. So for the first Panther of the new year, the complete build, I am very, very impressed with this kit. The part count was not ridiculous. The fit was excellent on it. Was a little skeptical in the beginning with the zimmerit because we had to put so much super glue on to hold it down. But honestly, I like I was saying earlier, I like the way it looks, kind of ragged and torn, especially once you highlight it with the washes and grime and things like that. I think it really, really pops out. It's just a beautiful kit all the way around. The retail price on it is under $50 in the United States for the basic kit. Now, there is a suspension kit that comes aftermarket that you can get, as well as the zimmerit. The zimmerit's about $15 retail. So still very inexpensive for such a nice quality, and as you can see, I think it builds up absolutely beautiful. I'm really excited to show you guys all the different Panthers that come out, but this is a great one to start out the new year, and I would actually recommend this to even beginner modelers, just as easy as it did go together. So we've got one down, and I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.